Is the Auburn basketball roster now complete? We may have gotten the answer this holiday weekend with the latest transfer coming in for the Tigers. We have a new addition to talk about, a new guard coming into play in 2024-25. Let's get into it right now. And of course, what it means for him, Bruce Pearl, and the Auburn Tigers. War Eagle Auburn family and War Eagle, a special War Eagle welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of the E2C network family. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time, being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. As is always the case when we get together live, we want to encourage you to start off the stream by smashing the like button if you enjoyed this type of content. Even if you're watching the replay, it's a great way to get the show started off with us today. What we have for you is a reaction stream of sorts. It is a little bit delayed. Let me go ahead and point that right out at the front. We obviously had this news break. I think it was now at this point 2 days ago, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday. Yes, I believe that's when it occurred. We had a holiday weekend. Obviously, you all have been busy. We have been busy as well. We're just now getting around. So a little bit of a delayed reaction stream, but we are reacting to a brand new addition to Auburn men's basketball for 2024-25. Miles Kelly transferring in from Georgia Tech. Very, very close with very good ties to Auburn, between Auburn and Georgia Tech. Kind of a unique connection there. The transfer comes over to be part of Bruce Pearl's squad heading into the upcoming season, which may or may not effectively end the search for more players on this roster. I believe we are probably there, but you just never know. As Trevon Reed has always been quoted as saying, we ain't done yet. You just can never expect it. But for now, I want us to dive into, of course, what it means for him, what it means for Bruce Pearl in terms of this recruiting and transfer class, the roster outlook for next year, playing time. What are the implications on the season as a whole? How does this affect the rest of the team? Obviously, those are some things that we want to react to and discuss today. So don't be shy, especially if you're watching live. Jump into the conversation. Let us know that you're here. Post where you're watching from. And of course, smash that like button. Let me do some opening thoughts, and then we'll give you some stats and facts before we talk about what it means. Opening thoughts on this one. I will be honest with you. I personally, obviously, with some of y'all know, have been on the road, as you can tell, with a new setup, not been as on top of the news and stuff. So it's not that this one caught me off guard. I kind of got some hints that this one was particularly heading this direction. I didn't know that it would actually happen on Sunday, the day before Memorial Day. But it was a good time, I think, with a lot of Auburn folks maybe chilling out, getting ready to have a good holiday, time of remembrance and weekend, to have something kind of exciting to talk about and look forward to the next season. The decision was made, he committed, and now we look forward to how he's going to be a part of this team. To me, initial reactions with this commitment is, boy, for those of you that screamed from the heavens that our guards are too small, well, you have gotten your wish. There are, in my mind, very few, if any, quote unquote, small guards on this roster anymore. For those of you that love upperclassmanship, boy, have you got it, especially with these 3 transfers that we have now brought in, adding to that experience level. I think I have some stats correct on the breakdown of class. And when I tell you this, when I read it, I was like, whoa. Obviously good news for the season, but after that, this team could look pretty different if a lot of people leave after this time. But we won't worry about that right now. We'll worry about the implications and what it means for right now. Let's talk about Mr. Miles Kelly coming by way of Georgia Tech. Always cool when Auburn and Georgia Tech can kind of, have that intermingling, that connective tissue, because there is such a rich history between the two schools across sports, across academics, obviously very heavy engineering schools, very close in proximity. It's just it's a cool thing when Auburn and Georgia Tech's worlds collide in anything. And so I just wanted to say that at the very start. But what do you need to know about Mr. Miles Kelly? Well, he is currently, based on Georgia Tech's website, which is mainly what we're referencing here, listed at 6'6", 180 pounds. He is a hometown kid of Stone Mountain, Georgia, although he spent some time at Parkview High School and Hargrave Military Academy up in Virginia. So through Georgia by way of, or I guess maybe I said that in reverse, of Virginia, he comes to us having played 3 years at Georgia Tech. We'll dive into a little bit more about those years in just a second. But effectively, that if we're not having any more COVID eligibility, this is his final year of play, and he will play with Auburn. Who knows if there's actually going to be another year out there for him or not? I don't know that. But he will be listed as a senior effectively on the roster and in the makeup of the team and how all of that lays out there. So 6'6", 180 pounds, obviously not like a huge like guard in terms of weight and size, but in terms of height, length, wingspan, this guy provides you some of that, someone who can probably go to the hole and take a beating or deliver the beating as well and shoot as well. That's what we're all obviously looking for. One of the big complaints for Auburn fans over the last couple of seasons has been not only the size of their guards, but their ability to consistently make three-pointers. You know, I think when we go into his stats here in a second, you'll probably see maybe his last season is not necessarily a discouragement to you, but it's just a sign that maybe he's not the one that's going to be draining the threes the entire time, but he still is a capable three-point making guard, which is what a lot of Auburn Tigers fans wanted to see improve this past, well, for 2 seasons now, but even more so over the last couple of seasons. So let's look at some stats. He has played 3 seasons at Georgia Tech, dating back to the 2021-22 season. His first year there, he played in 30 games. Minutes were 14 minutes. His next 2 years, obviously, I think I can say he was elevated to a starter. If he wasn't, he was playing starter minutes, going up to 32 minutes per game, 31 minutes, and playing in upwards of 30 games in the season as well. And his numbers, his best year was his sophomore year, effectively. And playing in 33 games, his points were 14.4 points per game. His shooting percentage was the best. His three-point percentage was the best at 37.9. Free throw percentage that year was amazing at 89.8. Y'all know I love that. If you've been watching this show for long enough, you know how much I harp on free throws, and rightfully so. That was a great sign right there. Now, his next year, if you look at it, you will notice that he dips a little bit in minutes, but that's such a small thing. It doesn't matter. His field goal percentage goes down, his three-point percentage, his free throw percentage goes down. But what rises up is rebounding, his assists, his blocks, his steals, his personal fouls go up, his turnovers go up a little bit. So, and then his points go down a little bit from 14.4 to 13.9. So what this tells me, the narrative I'm at least building off of this, is this a guy that obviously numbers, efficiency, shooting went down, but maybe his aggression and his play shifted a little bit as well. You see more blocks, you see more steals, you see more rebounds, you see him sharing the ball more. To me, what I see, and obviously you can accuse me of being a sunshine pumper all you want, is a guy maybe becoming more well-rounded as a guard, which frankly, as much as we as Auburn fans focus on, we got to have better shooters, we got to have better, bigger guards. Really what we need is somebody who's more well-rounded and can do a little bit of everything. And so that's the narrative that I see building throughout what the stats tell me. We've talked about what his measurables, his facts about him tell us about him, where he's from. Obviously, the fact that he is going to, being a guy of Stone Mountain, Georgia, originally, he's going to have his family close. So that helped him get him over here. A couple other things to keep in mind, maybe just some like superlatives, things about his time at Georgia Tech. His most points he ever scored in a game was 36, so he's not shy to be able to do that. If you look at this on Georgia Tech's website, you'll see that Louisville was a great game for him. And so keep in mind, folks, this is a guy that is experienced. This is a guy that checks a lot of boxes for a lot of Auburn fans' complaints, at least some of the vocal majority out there, or not, I guess vocal minority. But he has also been participating in the ACC. The ACC most years is in that conversation for top 2, top 3 conferences in basketball every single year. Yes, you're playing at Georgia Tech, where Georgia Tech's probably not been to the level they once were. Talking about Louisville being his best game, Louisville's not been the best they once were, but this is still the ACC. So 36 points per game for him, not per game, but that one game. His most minutes he played was 41. It's a guy that plays very experienced, has played a lot of minutes. Most field goals made was 24 against Howard. You'd expect to do that against a smaller team, but Howard's made the tournament a couple of times recently. Most three-pointers made in a game was 7. Free throws made in a game was 8. Most rebounds in the game was 12. So effectively, actually, I had that wrong a little bit. That was Mississippi State, so against SEC talent. Blocks 2, steals 3. Those are some of his superlatives from his time at Georgia Tech in terms of most of doing a particular thing in that game. So that gives you some facts, some stats, some initial thoughts about this commitment and what it potentially is coming to Auburn. But what does it mean? That's what's most important for us, right? What does it mean for Bruce Pearl? What does it mean for the Auburn Tigers? Well, let's talk about it on the recruiting standpoint first. Are we done yet? If you look at the roster, here's what you're going to see. Let's kind of walk you through that again, because I think the answer might be yes, we are done. But as you always need to keep in mind, maybe not. Auburn lost 5 people this year to effectively. There's one in there that we might count as well. But Jalen Williams, Leor Berman had no more eligibility. They were gone. They were effectively replaced by Ja'Kai Howard and Tahad Pettiford. We had 3 guards leave, which means that maybe you would get 3 guards there, but we got a mixture of it all. So you had Katie Johnson, Aiden Holloway, and Trey Donaldson all leave. Now we brought in 3 transfers. Don't necessarily fill those exact positions across the board, but as we talked about, you've maybe increased your size and your experience in terms of the type of guards, especially that you have out there on the court. So all of those spots have now been filled. You could argue that Carter Sabera, who I believe is no longer on the roster, it doesn't look like he's coming back, or at least will have that scholarship. That spot is still open, but Bruce likes to leave one open for a walk-on to be rewarded, as he did with Carter Sabera, as he did with Leor Berman, as he's done with several others, which is a great thing, and many coaches do that, but it's something that Bruce is very adamant about. So effectively, all spots have been filled. There's no more room. Technically, there might be, but we're done. That's what I would say. If you are someone that's wondering, are we done yet? The answer to that is yes, we are done, outside of weird things shifting around. What does this also mean? Here's the coolest thing about the Tigers. We talk about experience. If everybody is truly listed as what they are supposed to be, Auburn is basically a team full of seniors, minus 2 freshmen who just arrived, Ja'Kai Howard and Tahad Pettiford. Now, this has implications for the upcoming season after this one, who will be left. But this year, Auburn will have no excuses in terms of experience, in terms of leadership, with Janai coming back, with Dylan coming back, with ones that we weren't as worried, but they announced that they would come back, such as Chad Baker-Mazzara, Chris Moore, Denver Jones. But now you've added 5 guys, 2 from the high school ranks, 2 and 3 from the transfer, to fill out with other names like Chaney Johnson. I think we've named everybody else. Todd Pettiford, I don't know if we've mentioned him yet, one of the high school guys. That's going to be really a well-rounded roster full of experience. So, yes, I do think we are done. The roster is complete. But you just never know, right? What does this mean for him, right? What does this mean for him in terms of what playing time he may or may not have? How does he fit into all of this? Obviously, this changes, in my mind at least, what has been the narrative about who is going to play point guard and how often, because very adamantly, Bruce said from the get-go that Tahad Pettiford was not going to be slotted into that point guard spot, that he was going to be a combo guard. But with this addition, that kind of changes the story a little bit in my mind. Miles Kelly, a point guard, I would not label him. Doesn't mean that he can't handle the ball. You also have Denver Jones, who's done this a little bit previously, that can handle that, but he is likely going to be out there to the floor. So Miles Kelly, I think, changes the roster utilization a little bit. You might see Tahad Pettiford see more time at point guard than we initially thought. And a lot of you are going to say, I told you. Well, you didn't tell anybody, because we didn't know that we weren't going to be able to get a true point guard out of this to go behind. And if you're seeing JP Begiggs here, your time's not going to be outside of an injury, knock on wood. You're not going to see a lot of time. So this does, I think, change the narrative at point guard a little bit. How does he fit into all of this? I mean, I think it's fair to say right now that he slides into a 2-guard spot behind Denver Jones. Now, if Denver's at point guard, that means Miles Kelly can effectively come in to that spot and get some more minutes. Heaven forbid we have a injury. I'm knocking on wood over here on the wall. So that might be how that plays out of everything. So while I would not anticipate Miles being a starter, I think he'll play significantly. You might see his minutes comparatively at Georgia Tech drop down a little bit, but what he has done is put himself in a more prominent position to maybe find a chance for a championship and a chance to do more things than maybe he would be able to do at Georgia Tech. I don't know what their outlook looks like this season. I think they've got a second-year head coach in Damon Stoudemire, not Damian Stoudemire. But right now, the fit looks good. It actually seems to check a lot of boxes. Is it the way that we thought this would go? Meaning a lot of us had our minds that we would have another point guard being brought in. Probably not, but that doesn't mean it won't be a successful season. So we have walked through some facts, some stats, what it means for the recruiting and transfer portal cycle, effectively done, what it means for the roster upcoming this year. We've talked a lot of those different angles. If there's any final things that you guys would like to mention, have us bring up, drop them in real quick on the live chat. Couple of reminders for you. We are having our regularly scheduled Wednesday night live stream, our call-in show, where you can choose the topics. You pick what we talk about. It is about you, the Auburn family. So it's our Auburn family night, Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Do not miss it. I will be back in studio, barring unforeseen circumstances. Doesn't mean you won't see this setup again sometime in the near future, but we will be back in studio for that one on Wednesday. So I hope you can join us for that. We will also have a Sunday night show from studio as well. Don't have any cue cards ready for you guys, but just keep that in mind. Final thoughts here. The roster appears to be complete. This roster is extremely experienced. This roster has fixed, at least on paper, some of the complaints. I won't say all, but some of the complaints of a lot of Auburn Tigers fans, especially around their backcourt and their guard play. There will be no excuses from that standpoint for fans out there. Once again, I think Bruce has done a bang-up job in filling needs and holes that this roster had, and we will see now, will it translate on to the court? Only time will tell. And folks, I know it seems like it's far away, but it ain't as far away as you think. We'll be talking about preseason practice, early rankings, all these things coming up in the very near future. I want to thank you for tuning in here at E2C Network, hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until I talk to you again, War Eagle.